Good afternoon and good morning, everyone, and welcome back to the Blind Press YouTube channel and coffee stream number 172. And of course, it's Wednesday, so we're back with another edition of Wednesdays with Skep. And how is Skep Talk this morning?
Yeah, I'm all here after a successful game stream with Jack Gunsky last night. It was big fun, but I'm happy to be here with you today. What's on your mind today?
So I was just perusing Twitter this morning, and I happened to see a tweet from our intrepid leader, Justin Trudeau.
Well, that intrepid leader.
Talking about the UN peacekeepers and their sacrifice, and how today on hashtag PK Day, Peacekeeper Day, I'm guessing PK stands for, we honor their extreme sacrifice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason this pisses me off...
He served in what branch of the military?
That would be none.
Oh, he was a nun. Why am I not surprised?
So there's the reason that this made me so angry is that we have a senator his name is General Romeo Dallaire. He was a UN peacekeeper who served in Rwanda during 1994. So, and I believe he also went off to Somalia afterwards. And so he has written extensively about his experiences with the genocide in Rwanda, and the things that he saw. And he's very open with the fact that he's a PTSD sufferer. So I quote tweet Justin, and I say something like, so what do you do for people like Romeo Dallaire? Handing out senatorships to a few well-known generals does nothing for the majority of veterans and peacekeepers who go through hell every day and deal with and understand what they see. You have it's absolutely disgusting.
And he responded back to you.
Oh, of course not. I wish he did. But
what do you think he would say?
He would probably deflect and say something about how wonderful it is that he can speak to a disabled woman, and how he definitely wants to help with the plight of disabled Canadians, and how of course, Canada is working very diligently to make lives for disabled Canadians much better with the Canadians with Disabilities Act, and on and on and on and on and on, because that's how he is. He'll pick something about the person who's questioning him, or he'll pick something about, he'll pick a speaking point that he's been like jobs. Right now, that's his thing, is jobs.
Yeah.
And how wonderful it is that he's bringing jobs back to Canada. And that is exactly what he would do. It would not be a usable answer.
What has he really done for Canada? What has Trudeau really done for Canada in terms of accomplishments, in terms of something you can hold in your hand?
I honestly...
What has he done other than occupied his office?
Real quick, thank you, tall person, for the $5 donation, by the way. I can't pick one thing because, there are some people that go, oh, well, he made pot legal. He didn't even do that right. He didn't even do that right. He left it completely up to, like, there's nobody's been pardoned for previous pot offenses.
I was just going to say, did he go back through the prisons and pardon all the nonviolent offenders?
No.
What an asshole. I'm sorry. Your premier's an asshole.
He really is.
He is an ineffectual little douchebag who shouldn't have the position that he has. And if his name wasn't Trudeau, he wouldn't. He'd be, at best, a clerk
Yep.
somewhere or some unemployed little piece of shit whinging about how the government should provide him with living. He'd be a universal basic income advocate, and
Yep.
he would love Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah, I think the only reason he got elected was because his name is Trudeau.
That's exactly right. How sad. How pathetically sad. Well, anyway, we got some friends in chat. Man, chat built up early today. Come here early and often. I see Rolling Bear and Moonshock are here. Green Thunder.
Milkman Dan said he's not all that bad. The eyebrow thing made me laugh.
Blake Hanley is here. Arms Killer. And, of course, Tall Person. Arva. And Calvic is here. Hello, Calvic. Duck Dog.
All you need is here.
Moonshock is here. Moonshock is you're getting chemo today, right?
Yes, he is. I hope that listening to us is helping be relaxing for you as you sit and get your infusions.
Yeah. Maniac Man is here. Duck Dog, Ghost Dog. All the dogs are here.
Yep.
Who let the dogs out? All you need is here. And yeah, Milkman Dan, like you said. And
Maniac Man actually has a good point. He says he's made speech crippling laws that hurt that hurt everyone.
That do nothing but hurt people.
That do nothing but hurt people. Yeah,
exactly. That's really a Rolling Bear says Fluffy would be working a truck stop on his knees and not Prime Minister. $5 a throw. Love you a long time, Joe. Yeah.
God.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, but anyway, seriously, best wishes to you, Moonshock. Hope everything goes smoothly and you don't have too much misery today from your infusion. And just glad that you can have that treatment anyway. Glad that treatment's available to you, and hope it. I hope it's needless. You know, I hope it's in pursuit of a cancer that isn't even there anymore. But
yeah.
You know, better safe than sorry. Yeah, even with the misery. I know what I'm talking about there. The I just got so sick about listening to what was going on with Brexit and with the elections over there. Yeah, I knew that UKIP was going to get its ass kicked.
Yeah.
As soon as Nigel Farage, formed the Brexit Party, because that was the purpose of that party, basically, was to draw those votes out and to put all those votes in one place.
Well, because Nigel does not like Jared.
No, he doesn't
at all.
There's a lot of deep-seated hurt feelings there that, unfortunately, sometimes get in the way of the overall mission.
Yep.
The overall mission should be, first of all, to effect a Brexit and to stop a Corbyn government. I mean,
agreed.
Those are two things that, in order to save Britain, those are step A and B.
Yeah.
and they can be done in either order, but they have to be done. You know, the sad thing is that a lot of the shitheads in London, the reflexive Remoners, the ones who, oh, we have to remain a part of the European government because we want to be part of a large powerful body like the United States. That's basically what is
Yeah.
going on there. Is the United States envy, and we want to be of dictatorial size. The problem is there's no common culture there. It's too heterogeneous a population of people.
Yeah.
The reason that the United States has stayed together as well as it has, and we almost flew apart once, is that we have a homogenous culture.
Mm-hmm.
We stay together better because we mostly have the same values, mostly have the same objectives, and mostly do most things the same way.
Yeah.
We kid about it. We call it the United States of Generica, but where you, you, you can't really tell when you're on a highway if you're in Cincinnati or Kansas City.
Yeah.
Except by the names of the towns, because the buildings are made out of the same building. Except for the monuments and things that harken back to the past, all the modern stuff is the same. Steel and glass all look the same. The modern parts of the cities all look the same. The and that's people make fun of us, but that's a strength. And one of the things that Ocasio Cortez and Rashida Tlaib and uh, Ilhan Omar want to do is to break that down. They want to balkanize the United States and begin to break it up. They want to make the United States into a bunch of small, preferably warring territories because that's what they're comfortable with.
Yep.
They want to see us like Yemen and Oman and United Arab Emirates and Kuwait, a bunch of vicious little republics that hate each other. Even though they're amazingly similar one to another, a bunch of Arabs who are Sunni Muslims. They should be homogenous, but they hate each other because they've hated each other for years and years and years.
Yep.
Those people want to import that hate to the United States and want to separate the United States that way. That's what all this noise is about. Uh, preserving ethnic ways and stuff like that. They don't want to assimilate into a a central culture, a thing that is America. That's considered racist now. In fact,
Yep.
to even advocate that in college will get you thrown out of many universities.
Well,
Think about that.
it's true. Then it's the same way in Canada. If you dare suggest that people when they come here attempt to be Canadian,
Yeah.
you're a racist,
Right.
right?
Right.
You're how dare you?
Oh
And
yeah.
you're not even suggesting that they stop speaking their native language at home,
Oh
that they
heavens.
stop practicing their religion, that we're not asking for that. All we're asking is when you go to work, speak English.
Right. Right.
Understand English so that you
Right.
can serve your customers or whatever. When you in like when do you know what I mean? Don't
Oh yeah.
impose like you wouldn't want Christianity imposed on you. Don't
No.
impose your religion on us. Like just be, and that's what it is to be Canadian. You be respectful. You be like you don't have to be a conformist robot, but
No.
you be respectful. You be polite. You be glad to be here. You
Right.
be happy that you're here. You want to make this country a good place to be. You like that's what it is to be Canadian.
To have
Like,
a positive civic
to,
spirit.
yeah,
And
to, well, that's what it used to be.
yeah,
Anyway, that's what it used to mean to be Canadian, to be proud of the things, because we used to be very proud of the things that we did.
but now
In
you can't be Canadian anymore. You
No,
have to
you
be
can't.
Mexican Canadian. You have to be Iranian Canadian. You
Yeah,
have to be Azerbaijan
I've
Canadian.
seen the term African Canadian before.
Absolutely. I've seen all that stuff. I've seen Mexican Canadian. The Mexican Canadian community. Really? Seriously? My God.
Yes, Armskiller, to treat their hosts with respect. Exactly.
Yeah. And if you're going to stay there, to become more like them, not demand that they change to accommodate you.
Yeah.
You know, yes, you're going to have an effect on them, and that's a healthy thing. That's a good thing too. But most of the effect is going to be on you because you came there.
Yeah.
Okay. You do 95% of the changing. They do a little bit of the changing, just to absorb. They become a little bit larger. They don't really change that much. They don't become smaller. But you on the other hand will do a lot of changing as you become much more like them. You learn a new language. You learn English. You can come to the United States. To me, you learn English. And
Yeah.
people like Ocasio Cortez reject that out of hand. You come to the United States, you insist on your language. Rashida Tlaib considers it to be a big step forward that many of the street signs in certain parts of Detroit are now in Arabic.
Hmm.
Now they're also in English, but she wants them only in Arabic.
See, here in Canada, the only signs that are bilingual are official signs or signs in Quebec because they've made such a big stink about it.
Yeah. Well, Canada sort of has an official history with French.
Yeah.
I mean,
We did.
that's part of Canadian culture.
The thing about it is that the French got treated pretty badly.
Yes.
Um, they've got pretty much the same treatment as the natives did. A little bit better, but
No.
they got pretty much the same treatment as the natives did because they were Catholics,
But at some
right?
point, a grown up has to step up and say, okay, it's
Oh,
time for
yeah.
you to be over it.
Yes, absolutely. The
Okay.
French are definitely milking the bad treatment.
Oh my God.
And that's the reason they're allowed that's the reason the Napoleonic Code is followed in Quebec because they milked it and invoked guilt for on the rest of Canada. Do you remember how badly you guys treated us? Oh yeah, I guess so. Fine. Like that's pretty much how that went.
Yeah. So we're
It
going to have
was
15th century jurisprudence. Well, welcome to the 15th century.
yeah.
Okay. Nice.
It's pretty bad news, everyone. I made it, says Costin. Well, you know what? We're glad to have you anyway. Ha
Love it when Costin shows up.
ha.
So those are the few things that are going on. I just got so depressed reading about all the stuff with Brexit, all the stuff that wasn't happening in Britain, all the stuff that needed to happen. It's so far away.
Did you see Sargon's video this
I was
morning?
I was you took the words right out of my mouth. I didn't see the video this morning, but I've been watching his videos. Tell me about his video this morning.
Okay, so I didn't watch the whole thing because I was laughing too hard. Um,
What was it about?
so it's called the 20-year plan, just to give you an idea.
So it's a takeoff on the old communist 5-year plans, 10-year plans.
Yes. So he starts off, he's recorded it on his phone because according to him, he's at a mystery location. And I got so far, I got about a minute into the video because he's like, My wife just wanted a holiday off the campaign trail because, it's stressful for her. And I'm like, dude, the election's over. You lost.
Yeah.
Go home. Like that's why I put out on Twitter what I did. I said I saw Sargon's video this morning titled "The 20-Year Plan." Dude, go home to your wife and kid. You failed at being a politician. Go home before you lose at being a shitlord too. Because serious, like the my wife wanted a holiday from the campaign trail. The campaign is done.
Well, it could be that she just wanted to, get away, spend some time getting away.
The wife left his ass. Says irate prostate. Hashtag denial. But it's like it's just honestly to hear him say my wife took a holiday from the campaign trail. I'm like, oh dude.
You think he's delusional?
I do.
I don't know
He's
if he's delusional as much as he's just tired uh, of all of it. I don't think he
well
was
he
ever really suited for any of this.
he's not, and he's lost like what's he gonna do now that he is first of all he's lost monetization on his channel.
Yeah,
And now he's lost the election.
yeah.
So what the hell's he gonna do?
I don't.
Be like a small creator relying on Streamlabs donations and Patreon?
There's that possibility.
Like he's never gonna get monetization back.
No, no, no. He's going to have to rely on Patreon, and he does. He actually does pretty well on Patreon. I understand.
He does, but if he keeps going the way he's going, that might not work. Do you know what I mean? Like,
You think that, and I don't know the answer to this because I don't know the dynamics of how Patreon works. My instincts tell me that Patreon will go for a while and then it will peter out. It will very slowly decline on
yeah,
you. I think that's probably the way that Patreon works. I don't know that, but I'm just guessing. It's a very hard resource to renew,
yeah,
and I don't see him doing the type of work that I would associate with, a successful effort to renew that sort of thing,
yeah.
which could make it tough for him. Which is sad because there are, I know a lot of people throw a lot of shade at Sargon, and there's there's some legitimate criticism, no doubt, that can be
He
thrown his
he
way.
was a great content creator at
He
one
was.
point.
He really was. He really was.
It's sad to see where he's gone because he was a good creator.
He
He
was more than
had
just good. He was really top notch.
he had a good thing. He had smart things to say.
Uh,
He had a good way of presenting it. He had the when especially when he was also doing the historical stuff,
yes, and
like on
I
top of his
miss
political
I miss
content.
that. I really miss that. Yep,
Yeah,
I miss that.
like the I hate to use the word, but the diversity in his content at one point.
Diversity.
Diversity. See, I know this is a tangent, but the fact that that word is now almost a dirty word
Oh, I know.
because of
That's
the
so weird.
ridiculous pandering and the ridiculous reeing that is now activism.
Yeah.
And activism is now a dirty word.
Yep.
It used to be like when I was a kid, when I did advocacy and work with the Canadian National Institute for the Blind, it was it was actual activism. It was actual advocacy. It wasn't bitching just for the sake of bitching
I love
and calling it activism.
I love the way that you use re as a verb. It's an intransitive verb. So fun. That's so funny. I just don't know what to do.
Yes, to re.
Yeah, all the reing, I think it was hearing the participle that got me.
Yes.
All the reing, the present participle of the verb re. Oh my. So anyway, yeah. So uh, yeah, we're not in a sane environment in many ways anymore, and that it's taken its toll on a lot of stuff that used to make sense and now doesn't. And one of the things that used to make sense and now makes seemingly less sense is Sargon, unfortunately. And I'm with you. I miss the days when he would have interesting
Yeah.
historical things to go along with his political commentary, and he was sort of a man for all seasons. I just thought, man, this is what YouTube's supposed to be.
Mhm.
And now it's just somebody who is he sounds burnt out to
He
me.
does.
And in terms of that, he probably does need it some time away from the campaign trail, as it were, some time away from YouTube, really.
Yeah.
And when I say time away, I mean like 2 years away. I mean, like, go get a job, go work in the Peace Corps for 2 years, kind of thing,
Mhm.
in Ecuador or something for 2 years, and then come back and uh, get some perspective, do something to just change the channel,
Yeah.
because
Go home and play with your damn son.
yeah, yeah, that's a great point. Is you know, be
Be
a
a
dad,
be a dad for a while.
man. You only get one chance to be a dad. I only get one chance to be a dad or a grandfather, by the way.
Yeah.
And
Just take a break.
yeah. So anyway, that's sad. So I hate to so so I was getting kind of depressed listening to Sargon going on and all the stuff with Theresa May and the government falling apart, and uh, England feels like it's lost. It feels like there aren't any grown-ups in charge,
Yeah.
and the only grown-ups are in charge of evil factions. They're the Sadiq Khans and
Yeah.
the Jeremy Corbyns and the who was that fat pig he was sleeping with,
Oh,
Diane Abbott or
that
whatever.
yeah, I think so.
Uh, uh, those are the evil people, and those are the only ones left who are doing anything. All the good people have just gone away. It's like they're not there anymore. Um, I used to think Boris Johnson was going to ride in on a white horse and save the day, and now I just I don't know if anybody can or if
No.
anybody wants to. So I was getting tired of that, and I was looking around, and I found uh, a couple of interesting websites that basically act as digest for news that's interesting.
Okay.
And I found an interesting article, one that caught my eye. I mean, there were lots of headlines. One that caught my eye was uh, New Grange, the massive Irish tomb. Wait for it. That's older than the pyramids. Okay, Irish tomb that's older than the pyramids
That's
kind of did
insane.
not compute with me.
No.
I mean, that means that, okay, there's a giant ancient Celtic structure that's older than the pyramids. Really? Show me.
Yeah.
Okay. And so I turned to it, and I thought I would share the article with you.
Sounds good.
The opening of the ancient tomb of Newgrange in County Meath Ireland perfectly aligns with the rising sun every winter solstice, so the first day of winter. The massive tomb complex of Newgrange, Ireland, deserves to be the eighth wonder of the ancient world. The hemispherical tomb, just north of Dublin, was built 500 years before the Great Pyramid at Giza even existed, before the first stone was laid.
Wow.
There's plenty of room in this tomb. Okay, this is a big honking tomb. Newgrange was built around 3200 BC. Well, I was just a kid. Hundreds of years before the Great Pyramid of Giza, and, which was 2500 BC, and
Right.
Stonehenge, which was 3000 BC. So this is several hundred years before Stonehenge.
Wow.
So it's located in, impossible to say Gaelic word, but I'll give it a shot. Brunaboyne, Gaelic for palace or mansion of the River Boyne.
Hmm.
This 3 square mile area contains nearly 100 ancient monuments, including 2 other large tombs, in addition to Newgrange, and a couple of other hard names. Okay, Newgrange is a remarkable example of the so-called passage tomb. Okay, a little bit of archaeology here. Passage tombs are basically have a long passage, usually a long straight passage or a passage with one bend in it.
Okay.
And then you'll get to like the jackpot part of the tomb, where the bodies and artifacts and stuff like that are. And there won't be much in the passage. There occasionally be some inscription or stuff like that. But the passages are usually just that. And that's why they're called passage tombs.
So it's just basically a
Yeah.
hallway and
Yeah.
then a room.
And it affects what the thing looks like. So basically, what you have is this giant mound
Okay.
with a uh, a leg coming out of it that is the passage into it. And the rest of it is so built up with earth and rock that you would have to dig way, way into it. I mean, 100 feet into it to get to it. So the only practical way is to uncover the passage and go through the passage and so forth.
Okay.
Some of the passages are actually booby trapped, with booby traps that still work, with falling rocks and or pits and stuff like that.
So
Anyway,
it's nothing like a pyramid with like crazy tunnel mazy
no, 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 no.
freaking.
This is just a straight tunnel kind of thing into a hemispherically covered. Think modern dome stadium kind of thing, almost.
Okay.
So they're usually on top of a hill. Okay, and the uh, the uh, the passageways are long covered passageways, and they lead from a small entryway and go into the heart of the burial area. Most passage tombs are in Northern Europe, Ireland, Britain, Scandinavia, Northern Germany, Netherlands, and stuff like that. You don't find too
Okay.
much in the Netherlands because there's just too much water in
Yeah.
the dirt. There's not a lot of good archaeology up there, but in other places there are. You also find them in some in Italy, and that says some in the northern coast of Africa. I've never read any about that, but anyway. Um, this thing measures 262 feet in diameter. It's not small, okay?
Holy crap.
It's about the length of a New York City block. Newgrange is located in eastern Ireland, north of Dublin, and its mound is made of quartz and granite stones from the mountains of Ireland. It contains a single tomb with the remains of 5 individuals. They have some grave goods, and this is going to be a little bit of fun right here, including small beads and gold jewelry from the Roman period that survived in the tomb. And there are some human made upright stones that were placed in the earth next to the tomb, perhaps after it was initially built. One of the most interesting artifacts that is uh, uh, that they recovered from this tomb is, and they've delicately called it, a phallus like stone found at Newgrange. This is a dildo.
It's a stone dildo.
That's exactly what it is. This is a dildo. I know what a dildo is. This is one. And it's a big sucker, but it's fit to purpose. And
I'm just trying to imagine
it,
using a rock dildo.
yeah, it might be cold, but
I
anyway,
mean, I've heard of glass ones, but
this one is
a
made of stone.
stone one? I don't think so.
Yeah,
I
this
don't
one
think I'd ever want to use a stone dildo.
I don't know that. Yeah, I don't know what the. It was probably more ceremonial than utilitarian.
I would hope so.
It also has like how to put this concentric rings cut into the sides of it.
Oh dear.
Or yes, evidently that was somebody's idea of a good time. So anyway, moving right along.
They were tough back then, says
Absolutely,
RVA.
I just had to pass that along. So why did they decide to construct Newgrange and these other megalithic monuments? And it's hard to say because they didn't have they had like a symbolic language, but apparently not really a truly written language. There's not like hieroglyphs or anything that can be reckoned. They would tend to leave, like little pictures and little scratched out drawings, and that was about all you get.
Mm.
So we know they had dogs and sheep and stuff like that, and that's about it.
Oh, real quick, thank you, Duck Dog, for the $2 donation. Carry on.
One of the great anomalies of the Boyne Valley is the contrast between the magnificent and enduring ritual monuments and the somewhat ephemeral evidence of daily life. So they built these beautiful tombs and filled it with this really prosaic stuff, this really ordinary stuff, that is just evidence of ordinary life, bowls and
Yeah.
knives and forks and that sort of thing. So there's no evidence of a large scale settlement, such as would explain the organization's sophistication indicated by the tombs. It's hard to say if they were nomadic, just passing through, or if they considered that place to be a sacred place that they journeyed to. But there's just not a lot of evidence of the civilization that built this, except for these tombs. It may be that the tombs were the only part that was durable enough to survive.
Maybe those were
Now, let me just quick,
priests or
well, let me
chiefs
let me
or
just quickly
something.
say that's also an archaeological conceit because this is something that archaeologists do all the time. They say there's no evidence, that these people lived around there. What they mean is we haven't uncovered any evidence that they lived around there. They probably failed to tell you that there's never been a major archaeological effort to
Yeah.
ever uncover anything around there. And if they dug 6 inches down beneath the soil, they'd start getting artifacts like crazy and could probably uncover lots and lots of civilizations, that had lived there. So
Well, hell,
I
they
tend to
found
just,
a. Didn't they find a situation or a civilization buried in a bog
oh
in
yeah,
Scotland or something like that?
yeah, yeah. Bog evidences are all over. Yeah, yeah. In Upper Scotland, up toward uh, up in not in the Highlands, but in the northern part where it's still the lowlands, and you have bogs up there. Yes, they had evidence of civilizations up there. It wasn't always the bog. Uh,
Aliens, says RVA.
right. Well, here, every year when the sun rises on the winter solstice, the shortest day and longest night of the year, the the sunlight shines through a precisely placed opening in the stone walls, and that illuminates the long hall of the tomb. And that's the only day of the year that long hall of the tomb is illuminated. It was
Hmm.
probably the day that they went down and did some sort of ritual or whatever. Okay. So it's not clear why they did that, uh, but
I wonder how people back then would know
it
how to build something
hard to
so
say.
that the sun would shine specifically through on the solstice.
Well, here's the thing: people. would notice that the days got longer and shorter at different times of the year. And they noticed that it repeated year after year. And then they would begin to look for the turning point, when the days got the shortest. And then eventually there would be, each clan had a sanguine, right?
Hmm.
Who a spurg, who would say, this day is the shortest, and so the spurg would note which day was the shortest, and they'd make a mark on a rock that was unmovable of where the sun was in relation to two unmovable marks on the earth, so that they could have a vector to where the sun was that day, and that told them when the winter solstice would be, and when winter was starting, and then they could also tell when the uh, summer solstice was, the longest day of the year,
Hmm.
and when the days would begin to shorten. So I'm looking at a huge rock that's outside the passageway, and it's ornately carved with spirals, and just endless spirals. Look like uh, the letter E endlessly drawn into this rock, but it's just patterns. There's no it's not writing. It's not trying
So,
to
like, a
communicate.
bunch of
It's just,
Celtic knotwork
yeah,
just
exactly. Yeah,
in a stone.
exactly.
I
Exactly.
love Celtic knotwork.
That's exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. This is the sort of thing you'd see in a Celtic tattoo. So um, it's decorated with these massive stones, and the one I'm looking at is called the entrance stone, located, you guessed it, at the entrance to the passage tomb, and is covered with engraved swirls and geometric patterns. Um, it has 97 what they call curbstones, sizable blocks bordering the New Grange tumulus. Tumulus is an archaeological word for
Tomb.
tomb site, yeah, tomb area. The detail present on these engravings and others scattered around New Grange attest to its importance for the community who ordered it built. Also attest to the fact they did not have anything other than symbolic carving. They did not have a language per se.
Hmm.
I'm looking at an old picture of the same entrance stone that has not moved, and a little girl in 1905 standing at the entrance to this tomb. It's kind of interesting to see, how much has changed. They've really, dolled it up since then. They've really fancied it up
That's really
since
cool.
1905. It's kind of fun. Have a couple of beautiful rings and some gold jewelry that has been some gold rope jewelry.
Hmm.
Just like, it looks like braided rope that's been recovered from uh, the site, and evidently was very important. It's it. They think that the jewelry itself is Roman, and think it might be from later. So, for more than 1,000 years, Newgrange lay dormant. It wasn't until 1699 that Newgrange reemerged, both literally and physically. In that year, local landowner Charles Campbell ordered his territories surveyed in order to quarry one particular mound for stone. While excavating, Campbell's men came at last to a very broad, flat stone, rudely carved and placed edgewise at the bottom of the mount. This they discovered to be the door of a cave, and that was the entrance actually to the
Very cool.
passageway. And so that was kind of interesting. God, it's the inner corridor is really, it's really ornate and really well carved. I mean, there was just a shitload of work done on this. I mean, these stones that they erected, these stones weigh, oh, 10 between 5 and 10 tons that they moved into place.
Good Lord.
These are big ass stones. These are stones that are, half the size of the ones in Stonehenge.
Jesus.
Yeah, these are big fucking stones. Uh, yeah,
And somehow they moved them into place.
yeah, yeah.
Almost 1,000 years before
And so
Stonehenge.
they, anyway, yeah. So, and they've been excavating it really since 1962. That was when uh, Professor Michael O'Kelly was took over the um, excavation of it, and he really did the work on it that made this thing. It made it an absolutely awesome thing. I would love to go over. I'll tell you this. I'm gonna find the website for this. I guarantee you there is one, and it'll take you on a virtual walking tour of this. And I'm going to check this out because it just looks amazing. I've got to check it out and find out more facts about it. But anyway, that's your little tour into Anglo-Saxon archaeology. We don't get much Anglo-Saxon archaeology because that is not acceptable to the powers that be these
It's
days.
whitewashed archaeology.
It's whitewashed archaeology. These were white people, evil white people. But I think we should give them a shout out every once in a while.
So
And,
Pincalo found me a story that he thought we could talk about
oh,
today.
cool. What's it about?
It says the headline is uh, the World Health Organization agrees to water down resolution on transparency in drug costs. So this is about pharmaceutical prices. And the
What,
doctors
I'm sorry. You cut out big time. That may have just been
uh-oh.
me. Can you say that again?
So it says the WHO, World Health Organization,
Yes.
agrees to water down transparency in bill against drug costs
Water down transparency.
or resolution on transparency in drug costs.
Okay.
And then the subheading is Doctors Without Borders welcomes the move, but says more is needed to force drug companies to disclose more. So I guess this is about like the costs that drug companies charge.
Yeah.
And the World Health Organization is apparently trying to talk about or figure out something to do about it. So this says, under a new deal, the World Health Organization would be mandated to monitor the impact of transparency on drug prices. So,
Here, there's a lot to that.
yeah.
Okay. Go on
So,
ahead.
so it says
I've got a lot to
countries
say about that.
So it says countries of the World Health Organization agreed on Tuesday to push for clearer drug pricing after watering down a draft resolution that would have also required pharmaceutical firms to disclose the cost of making medicines.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can I rant?
Sure.
May I just, many of you know that I used to work. I have a background in biochemistry, and I used to work for Pfizer Pharmaceuticals.
Right.
I understand how ethical pharmaceuticals, as they're called, drugs,
Mm-hmm.
are marketed. I understand how they're developed. I understand how they are costed. And I understand the lies that pharmaceutical companies tell about their drugs. And I understand the lies that the people who hate pharmaceutical companies tell about pharmaceutical companies.
Right.
Let's cover just a few of those very quickly, shall we? Okay. First of all, Pharmaceutical companies are Satan. They just are. That's not a bad thing. They're Satan, like devil's advocate Satan, rational businessmen, Satan. Okay.
Mm.
And free will. It is a bitch. They will charge anything they can to
Yeah.
make as much money as they can. But here's the thing. They have models, okay, um, for how much it costs to bring a drug to market. And it does cost a lot of money to bring a drug to market.
Right.
They'll spend $100 million, get within one final trial of bringing the drug to market, and the FDA says, nope, you fail that trial, and that's it.
Yeah.
That drug goes in the shit can, and you get not one dime from your $100 million. You just flushed $100 million, gone. Okay, so the pharmaceutical companies kind of have this inbuilt chip on their shoulder where they said, we've got to make as much money as we possibly can because we have this huge unknown called the American FDA
Yeah.
that we don't know. And the FDA can be very capricious about this, where they can just in a moment of peak just say, no, we're not going to let that
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just like, oh, well, you know what? We
So
don't like the way you wrote your T on this form.
almost it's, you
You
laugh,
failed this
you,
trial.
you laugh, but it's almost like that. Now, the next layer is this, where the pharmaceutical companies, the larger pharmaceutical companies, actually have a bit of a soul about this. The smaller ones do not, strangely enough. The larger ones do. The larger ones realize that if they get a drug that is fairly effective against malaria, there's a moral impetus upon them, and they feel the weight of history on their shoulders to go and save 50 million lives in Africa. It's like a reverse Holocaust, and they know it. And so I've seen large company after large company. These are the large companies only. The small companies never do this. The small companies will come in with a breakthrough, and they don't care if it will save the earth. They will want every last dime out of that
Right.
because their point of view is they'll never have anything like this again. And here's what ends up happening with them. They get bought. The big pharma, they think they're being exposed to big money. Then big pharma comes at them and shows them what big money actually looks like.
Yeah.
And they go, okay, we'll sell you our company. Happy to do it. And they all get richer than Croesus, and that's the end of the thing. And they get absorbed into the Borg. And it's not, but pharmaceutical companies, although they are Satan, they're not monotonically evil. They do a lot of good,
Mhm.
and they actually do price responsibly a lot of the time. They realize that a PR disaster, will affect them badly. And here's why. Almost all the big pharmas compete head to head with other drugs where it's 6 of one, half a dozen the other.
Yeah.
It's a matter of getting the sales force out and marketing. And so if the FDA comes out and says, as a punitive measure, we're not going to let you market this drug anymore. We're going to force you into this really negative licensing agreement like they did with the Pfizer with Cinequan, with Penwalt, because Pfizer screwed the crap out of Penwalt.
Mhm.
They everybody learned a lesson from that, and so they don't do that anymore. So it's not as bad or as evil as everybody thinks. Yes, they make a lot of money from them. but they have to make a lot of money from them because a lot of times they get screwed out of their money on because of the capricious nature of the deal. And
Yeah.
here's the part that makes it tough. Pharmaceutical companies are almost like public utilities. We have to have them. Our our lifespans are so dependent upon the availability of certain pharmaceutical drugs
Yeah.
and pharmaceutical care that it's a little bit like not having power. It's like the power company. How long would you survive without electricity? How long would you survive without heat? How long would you survive without transportation?
Yeah.
I mean, it's almost that ubiquitous, almost that important in what we do, where it begs for strong government oversight, but it's the type of oversight where they just have to be sort of left alone to do their thing because it's so technical
Yeah.
that and the places where they need to be regulated are people think it's cost control, but it's not. It's really more like orphan diseases. You know what an orphan disease is?
Stuff like
Orphan
AIDS.
No, no, no. Orphan disease is like a disease that doesn't have enough sufferers to have a remedy developed for it. Or maybe a remedy exists, but they won't produce the remedy because there aren't enough people to buy the drug.
Oh, okay.
And
I
so,
gotcha.
but we still should be producing those because of the good that it does. And some of the pharmaceutical companies, Pfizer's a good example of that, will produce these just out of the goodness of their heart, just just because it's the right thing to do. They never get any credit for it. They get nothing but shade, but they do it anyway.
So that guy that overpriced the AIDS drug,
Oh,
was he a small
a small guy.
guy?
That's exactly typical of exactly what I was talking about. Is
Okay.
he was a small time guy, and if he had just played his cards right, he ended up disastrous. But if he'd played his cards right, he should have played himself to be acquired and set up a bidding war between Smith Kline and Pfizer and uh, Lilly, and just said, "Let the good times roll."
Right.
Yeah,
But
uh,
instead he decided to charge freaking
he fucking
what
went
was
insane.
oh, it was insane.
He
I
was an
can't even remember how much the pills were, but
Oh
it
yeah, it was
was
like $1,000, for each one. The same thing with the guy who was making the what was it, the norepinephrine
oh yeah.
dosages, which is that's a common thing. That's something that a place like Lilly, they could tool up and make so much norepinephrine that that company would be out of business forever. They could simply say, okay, we're going to make a big deal out of this. We're going to repurpose this plant and put in this kind of equipment, these kinds of tanks, and run this stuff and get it inspected. They could be live in 45 days producing norepinephrine. It's a very well regulated, very well understood process.
Yeah.
Very mechanical thing to do. They're experts in that. You just get it done, and uh, and then that guy doesn't even have a world anymore.
I rate
That's my rant on pharmaceuticals. It's a complicated thing. It needs a little bit more nuance than what most of these assholes are giving it in the public square. Did
well
I read
this
here? I didn't even.
irate said at Skep Talk, didn't Colorado put limits on how much insulin costs? That I don't
Oh,
know.
I don't know. The thing about that is, um, states can't really do that because it's a private transaction.
Yeah.
How can a state put a limit on something that you're ordering over the internet from New York? Are they going to check it when FedEx brings it into? Hey, if you got insulin in that FedEx package, how many packages are coming into Colorado today? 16 million. Well, let's check them all for insulin. No, that's not going to happen. So, you know,
So this article goes on to say the deal calls on governments to share more information about the prices they pay for drugs, which can vary widely around the world and are often kept shrouded in secrecy. Okay. Why do you want governments to disclose how much they pay for drugs? Like, does this mean health plans? Like,
what were you reading? Were you reading a comment?
that's what the article said. I'm
Oh,
continuing
okay.
to read the article. So it says the deal calls on governments to share what they pay for drugs.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, because
so
everybody
would that
wants to
mean
know if
like
they're getting a good
healthcare?
deal. Everybody wants to know if they're getting a special deal from the pharmaceuticals. I actually don't have a problem with that. I think public pricing, that's the thing that they're talking about,
Okay.
is not a bad idea because there you do get some price manipulation that is bad. It's typically sometimes it's directly with the companies, sometimes it's with the distributors, the,
Hmm.
the middlemen, as it were, who distribute it. But frequently, when it's at the national level, it's between nations, it will be directly with the companies, and you don't know what they're paying. And I think it probably would be fair to know what the cost of doing business is, for the company in a place, and what they're pricing
Yeah.
the drug at. It's hard to say. It's hard to go to a company and say you must do business on an ethical basis, because that violates my spirit of, as close to pure capitalism as we can get.
Hmm.
But on the other hand, it really can lead to a market failure, or real sub optimization, uh, if you let them price so high that they gouge successfully for a long time, and get an above normal return, because it ends up, the company thinks, well, we think it's a good thing for us, but it's actually wrong,
Mm.
because they get this inflated capital structure from getting returns on stuff that they're not really earning, that they're getting basically through dishonest means.
Right.
And when that stuff comes crashing down, share prices come crashing down, and sometimes equity accounts and the whole company come crashing down, and that's a bad thing.
Yes.
So, Irate Prostate says, didn't Colorado set a limit on yeah. And he says, so there's no price fixing on new drugs. I'm not sure what you mean by that. As far as on new drugs, they establish a price to recoup their investment, and to recoup their investments on failed drugs, and some other factor. It varies from company to company. Some companies are more ethical than others. By and large, the larger companies tend to be more ethical than smaller companies.
Yeah.
Basically, what I was saying.
The article continues on to say it was hailed as a landmark that WHO chief um wait oh it was a landmark that the WHO chief and it was and it was also enthusiastically welcomed by the United States. But Britain, Germany, and Japan, which have healthcare systems that depend on negotiating steep discounts from drug companies to keep
Mhm.
their costs down, said the debate had been rushed and called for the issue to be studied more closely. Okay.
Whatever that means.
So wouldn't they want this to be a thing, though, if they had to keep their costs down?
Yeah, I mean, whose costs, right? The you know
It says an earlier draft of the text would have also given the WHO explicit powers to collect and analyze data on the costs of making and testing drugs, which it then goes on to say um, would, or that wording was omitted from Tuesday's draft.
Yeah. Part of the problem that happens also is that, let's say, all right, we're going to have examination of what it costs to produce these drugs. So we're going to have our accountants go in and we're going to have them examine your records and show us what costs you incurred in the production of this drug. So the company provides all this stuff, and then there's a big fight between the accountants who go in to audit this stuff and the company who provides the information. The company says these are all relevant costs, and the accountant says these are not relevant costs. You're trying to pad this to make yourselves look like you're incurring more costs so you can charge more for your drug. And that war is costly, not for anybody except the company and the taxpayers who support the effort to audit the company.
Hmm.
It's an absolutely, completely unproductive exercise that results as a that comes out of this. You know, it's a shame that we can't trust one another to just to simply be honest about all this stuff. Where
Yeah.
the company says this is really what it costs us. This is what we have in the thing. This is the effort that we had to make it of it. This is the portion of certain fixed costs that we ascribe to that. We think they're defendable, and here are the assumptions that we made. And have people say, "Okay, we believe you. We trust you," and everybody can go on with that. Unfortunately, everybody is just trying to screw everybody over, and everybody has been doing it for so long that that's just the way business is done. And what ends up happening is we try to screw each other over so much that we spend all our energy screwing each other over instead of just getting the job done and moving on.
Yep.
It's a shame. And
But here's something that's funny. So do you remember the Childish Gambino "This Is America" thing?
yeah,
So the choreographer of that video is urging people to step up for rural Africans.
yeah,
So I'm guessing the white farmers.
yeah. Hey, wait, quick. Can I just address something that I rate prostate?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I rate that's the price that Colorado as a state is paying for its like state Medicaid stuff. That's what it is willing to pay for insulin.
Okay.
That's what it is doing. It's not controlling the price that individuals pay. That is the for people who are on state health insurance, state health insurance programs.
Okay.
That's all that
So they're not controlling they didn't fix the individual price. They
no.
fixed
They
their price.
they said that's all we're going to pay for it. Sell to us
Okay.
or don't sell to us, but fuck off.
Gotcha.
So that's it. Yeah, yeah. I don't remember. So anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead. What were you saying?
So it's this headline says Childish Gambino choreographer urges fans to step up for young rural Africans. Rural is hard to say.
It is. You ought to be Japanese and try and say it. They can't even say Corolla. Corolla.
Oh, that's
Sorry.
funny.
Anyway,
So it's
how you say?
it it says um she made a name for herself as the choreographer for one of the most controversial yet critically acclaimed music videos of last year. Now, Sherry Silver, the creative force behind the dance moves in Childish Gambino's This Is America, is using her success to drive a social media campaign promoting the investment in young people in rural Africa. The 24-year-old who tells The Guardian she's on a mission to make farming cool recently
Wait, just take that in for a minute. Make farming
make
cool.
farming cool.
Again.
It says it says she recently visited Cameroon, where she carried out dance workshops with farmers and entrepreneurs before creating a music video, The Freedom. I'm just trying to imagine her trying to convince Cameroonian farmers to dance in workshops. Here's what you're going to do, guys. You're going to take time from trying not to die of starvation.
Exactly.
And you're going to participate in these dance workshops. And then I'm going to use...
What if they're too tired to dance?
And then I'm going to use this footage that we've been doing in these dance workshops to create this music video called Freedom.
Good Lord. Really?
So it carries on to say, a lot of young people see farming as unglamorous, but we
No.
want to promote the positive aspects, she explained. It's not just about working in a field, it's about being an entrepreneur. You can see the exchange of money. It's about running your own business and how empowering that is. Except you're farming in Africa.
Shit.
Which is land that has been worked over for what, 2 million years?
Right. It's just going to say, and it's never been properly taken care of. Has never lain fallow. It's just rocky, nasty soil, bereft of nutrients. Oh my God.
Oh, Jesus.
Hey, Blind, I'm going to be back in just a second, okay?
No worries.
Back in 2 seconds.
No worries. So yeah, this woman wants to make farming cool. Oh gosh. So let's see what chat's saying here. Droughts, anyone? Says Armskiller. Yeah, I know, right? Make farming great again in Africa. Yep. Coffee. It should say Skep. Oh. Let's see. Let me see if I can find another article for us to read. Here we go. What do I have here? London Bridge attackers began plans 2 weeks before strike. Well, is that supposed to be what's the word I'm looking for? Is that supposed to be reassuring? So, let's see what this says here. The London Bridge terrorists started preparing their trap for more than 2 weeks before they struck, while the ringleader Kieran Butt was under MI5 investigation. An inquest was heard. 3 12-inch knives used in the attack on June 3rd, 2017 were bought 19 days earlier from a local supermarket in London. Jesus Christ, 12-inch knives? Who needs a 12-inch knife? And a rented van was used to run over people on London Bridge, killing 2 before 3 terrorists sprinted out to stab to death 6 people. Because, that's what you do on days when you're bored. You rent a van and run people over, and then you used 3-foot-long knives to stab people to death. So London bridges are falling down, says Random American. Yes. Let's see. Remember all those farmers getting attacked in South Africa? So cool, says Calvin KD. Yeah, I know, right?
Okay.
Let's see here. Or a really good date. Yeah. Let's see.
As a chef, I have 6 or 7 12-inch knives in my kitchen right now.
Ah,
A chef needs a good 12-inch knife. I agree.
yes.
At least one. I need like 3 or 4.
However, if you're going to, you know, I'm reading about the London Bridge attackers and how they had this planned out for about 2 weeks beforehand. Um,
Wait, the London Bridge attackers?
the ones from 2017 who used a
Yeah.
van to hit people and then they stabbed a bunch
That
of people.
it's a truck of peace, and those are
Yeah.
knives of peace.
Yeah, they bought the knives 19 days before the thing, the spree, and they
The
used a
peace
rented
spree.
van. The
Wow.
re-spree, yes. Um, it says the inquest heard new details of the attack and preparations, including that Oxford Street in central London may have been the original target. Why Oxford Street?
Oxford Street is just at the base of London Bridge, and it's a big shopping area.
Okay.
It's a very highly populated shopping area. I just remember that from that story. I don't know that from any other.
It says it also heard that a bungle by the terrorists may have meant that they missed on hiring they may have missed out on hiring a 7.5-ton lorry. Well, that's good.
You mean
I'm kind of
they could have had a much more peaceful truck?
yes, they could.
Wow.
Which almost certainly would have caused more deaths. Yeah, no shit.
Triacetone triperoxide is easy to make and cheap as chips. Yes, trinitrated halogens also, duck dog, I'm sure you know.
Mm.
Make fine contact explosive. You can make it with Tide and ammonia.
So then it goes, but 20, but on 20, but they carried out the attack on London Bridge but Kieran Butt, 27, carried out the attack on London Bridge with Rashid Riddell Lane, 30, and Yusuf Zakbit, 22.
Some English lads. Some fine
Um,
English lads.
yes, Kieran was the only. Kieran, well, the Irish guy,
Yeah,
was the only UK or British, English, Irish dude.
yeah. He was the only Anglo-Saxon creep,
Yeah,
and just a hateful Irish guy,
yeah.
hating everyone and everything. Let's kill some English. Fuck them. Irate prostate says, "How about a hovercraft of peace?"
And then it says CCTV played at the inquest showed Redolin buying these distinctive pink knives. Pink knives. Why would you buy pink knives? um. Okay.
I know.
Uh,
That's
on
weird.
May 15th, 2017, after entering uh a market street at on East Ham at 10:15 p.m. Huh.
Wow.
Assholes. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
Assholes.
Yeah. Assholes. Yeah. It's so easy to kill people, and it's so easy for people like Rashida Tlaib and Ocasio Cortez to say that these are courageous people. courageous people, courageous Palestinians shooting rockets at innocent Israeli homes, trying to murder Israelis. You know, just it's hard to build stuff.
Yeah.
It's hard to build those settlements in Israel. It's hard to construct things.
Yeah.
It's not hard to burn them down. It's not hard to kill the children. You know, it's especially if you hate the children just because they're Jewish children,
Yeah.
and you take delight in killing them. Uh, it's the same thing in England. If you hate those people and you just want to kill them because you're unhappy because something is wrong in the world and you want some attention and you're going to go to heaven and be surrounded by virgins and peeled olives and all that stuff. Uh, that's the most selfish, hateful thing I can think of. It's the most satanic thing I can think of. It's the most hellish thing I can think of is to murder people, the wanton murder that those guys did in 2017 of just innocent people out for a walk, out shopping, not thinking anything about it. All of a sudden, here comes a truck barreling down on you with a bunch of maniacs inside, killing people, and the people jump out. They don't help you. They jump out and start stabbing you.
Stabbing you. Yep.
And there is a special, special place in hell for those people. I
Tuck Dog says the pink knives are color coded, so instead of looking for what you need, you just grab the color. Yep. RVA says stab with fashion. Armskillev2 says they probably went to Poundland. I'm guessing that's a supermarket.
Yeah. If it's before September 1st, can you stab with a white knife? It's asking.
See, my logic to you can't wear white after Labor Day is that it's before the next Labor Day.
Yeah, which
So
one?
you can wear white anyway because next Labor Day is not yet upon us.
Right.
So you can That really pissed people off when I said that. Can't wear white after Labor Day. Yeah, but next Labor Day hasn't happened yet, so it's still before Labor Day.
People walk up to you and say that it doesn't work that way. That's not the way that works at all. Stop that blind press. Oh, that's funny. Well, let's see. I actually had an interesting thing. This was one of these things on this day in history. I thought I would remember Dr. Leonid Rogozov.
And what was that person famous for?
You're going to love this. Dr. Leonid Rogozov noted something strange in his personal journal. He was a part of the Russian team that was stationed at in Antarctica, and as such, it was not a time of year when they could get anybody in or out of Antarctica. He was the medical doctor down there.
Okay.
He made an interesting note in his personal journal. He says, "It seems to me," this is a direct quote from his journal, "it seems to me that I have appendicitis. I am keeping quiet about it." This is the interesting part. Brace yourself. Then he proceeded to perform an appendectomy on himself so as not to create a fuss.
Holy crap.
You think you got guts?
Okay, so he had to cut himself open. And you have to Oh my God.
On the morning of 29th April, 1961, Rogozov experienced general weakness, nausea, and moderate fever, and later pain in the lower right portion of his abdomen. None of the possible conservative treatment measures helped. Several days later, signs of localized peritonitis became apparent. His condition worsened considerably, and Mirny, the nearest Soviet research station, was more than 1,600 kilometers away from Novozazlovaya, which was the Antarctic research station where he was. Severe blizzard conditions prevented aircraft from landing or taking off, and he had no option but to perform the operation on himself. The operation started at 2 p.m. local time and with the help of a driver and a meteorologist, because that's who you get. Good God, is there a driver and a meteorologist in the house? Yes, I'm a driver. I'm a weatherman. Well, come on over here. We've got an appendectomy. They were providing instruments and holding a mirror to observe areas that he
Oh
couldn't see
God.
directly, while Rogozov was in a semi-reclining position, half turned to his left side. A solution of 0.5% Novocaine was used as local anesthesia for the abdominal wall. Rogozov made a 10 centimeter incision on the abdominal wall, and while opening the peritoneum, he accidentally injured the cecum, which is part of the intestine. So he cut his intestine, and he had to suture that before he could continue on. So he fucked up. He fixed his fuck up, and then he continued on. He then proceeded to expose the appendix. According to his reports, the appendix was found to have a dark stain at the base, and Rogozov estimated that it would have burst within a day. The appendix was resected, which means basically tied off and cut off, and antibiotics were applied directly into the peritoneal cavity, which back then would have meant taking yellow tetracycline powder and sprinkling it on there, because that's what you did. General weakness and nausea developed within 30 to 40 minutes after the start of the operation, so that short pauses for rest were repeatedly needed after that. By 4 p.m., the operation was complete. So, doctor, how was your day? After the operation, gradual improvement occurred in the signs of peritonitis and in the general condition of Rogozov. Body temperature returned to normal after 5 days, which means that the antibiotics worked. That's what actually saved his life. And the stitches were removed 7 days after the operation. He resumed his regular duties in about 2 weeks. The self-surgery captured the imagination of the Soviet public at the time. In 1961, he was awarded the Order of the Red Banner of Labor. The incident resulted in a change of policy, and thereafter extensive health checks were mandatory for personnel to be deployed on such expeditions. And there is a picture of him doing
Oh God.
that the driver took of him doing the surgery, and it is just as horrifying as
Could
what
you
you think
imagine
it
being
is.
the dude that has to hold the mirror?
Well, yeah,
Oh.
I think that stuff is interesting, so I would enjoy that. I would have volunteered to help him. I would have asked him, "Can I make the incision?" I dig that, but I think most of these guys were probably fairly freaked out. I think this guy was amazingly courageous.
The
But
sad part is he ended up suing himself for malpractice.
yeah, but
This is random American.
in October 1962, Rogozov returned to Leningrad and started working. He was actually a student. He was a medical student at the time.
Oh.
He had
He
not
wasn't
finished
even
his
a doctor
no, he had
yet?
not finished his MD. He
Oh
had not
my
finished his
gosh.
MD. He finished his MD a year later. And in 1966, he published an MD thesis entitled Resection of the Esophagus for Treating Esophageal Cancer. He later worked as a doctor in various hospitals in
you know,
Leningrad.
I think
And
you get to get your MD if you can successfully perform an appendectomy on yourself.
God, no kidding. No
I
kidding.
think that gives you a Generally, I wouldn't say that you get to pass go with an MD.
Holy
Like,
crap.
generally, I'm like, fuck no, you got to earn that. If you can perform an appendectomy on yourself that is successful and you don't die.
He ended up being an eminent pulmonologist, tuberculosis specialist. And but he was also, in addition to being the head of the surgery department, he was like a lung surgeon guy. He was the lung surgeon dude, heart and lung transplant guy. Anyway, interesting man.
That is
Interesting man.
really cool.
Yeah, it's so it's kind of one of these, on this day in history type things that I thought you might get a kick out of. And let's see, there was another one that I wanted to. No, that's not it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the dead air.
Okay.
I was looking for some interesting things. I hate doing this.
I've got one.
Yeah. Here's the guy. It's meet Rudolph. What are you interested in? In another strange?
Sure.
This is just some strange.
Yeah,
You
give
want
us
some more
another
strange?
Give us more strange.
Here's more strange. All right. Meet Rudolf Virchow, the Victorian Pope of Medicine who didn't believe in evolution.
Alrighty.
Rudolf Virchow's work spanned pathology, forensics, and cancer research. But for all his work, Virchow was also quite ignorant on two of the biggest medical advancements in modern medicine. In the scientific community, and particularly in the medical community, perhaps no man is as hailed as Rudolf Virchow, often referred to as the father of modern pathology. I mean, this is the guy, the Pope of medicine.
So, Virchow like pathology, like autopsies.
Yes, exactly. He's responsible for some of the most important medical discoveries that the field of disease study has ever seen. I mean, this guy, Virchow is the man. I mean, laymen have heard of this guy. Lots of laymen. However, in the rest of the scientific community, and specifically in the evolutionary community, perhaps no man is as hated. Despite his achievements and discoveries, Virchow spent most of his professional life in a strange dichotomy where he towed the line between scientific genius and a dumb shit, basically, ignorant as hell. At the same time that he discovered and named leukemia, this guy discovered and named leukemia.
Wow.
Okay. He also said, "Oh, Darwin's evolution. Are you kidding me? Bullshit."
Weird.
Yeah. And he claimed that Neanderthals were simply disfigured humans.
Wow.
I'm going to let that sink in for a minute.
So, a man who.
Yes, he discovered leukemia. Essentially discovered the basis of all modern cancer theory.
Was like, nah.
Yeah, evolution. Nah. I mean, yet one of the most popular tales of him is not one of discovery or of accomplishment, but of a duel in which he chose to fight with a diseased sausage instead of a sword. Such is the strange and singular story of Rudolf Virchow.
Wow.
Let's see. I'm going to jump straight to the sausage story because that's the one that people are going to know. Let's see. In 1844, he became the assistant to pathologist Robert long name, who introduced him to the field of pathology and the study of diseases, as well as microbiology and microscopy. He encouraged his students to think microscopically, an ethic that would lead Virchow himself to one of the greatest discoveries in his career in the pathological field of the 19th century. Just a year later, Virchow published his first scientific paper in which he described the pathology of leukemia for the first time in medical history. Virchow discovered that white cells, when abnormally increased, will cause a near-fatal blood disease. He coined this disease leukemia and declared it a type of cancer. From this observation, he theorized that abnormal cells are the most common cause of cancer. He then used this research to discover how tumors form and became the first to describe a chordoma, or tumor that forms on the base of skull. And also, but he also discovered the way that tumors start to form, and was the first one to get that out there. In his further research of cancer, Virchow and another anatomist discovered that an enlarged blah 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 node is the first sign of stomach or lung cancer. Today, the node is commonly called Virchow's node. The paper allowed him to earn his first medical license. 2 years later, he was enlisted by the Prussian government to study a typhus outbreak. The paper Virchow wrote from the study became a turning point in the discussion of public health, especially vis-a-vis typhus. So, anyway, I want to get down to the part where here it is. Okay. When Charles Darwin published so now you've got an idea of his bona fides as far as his genius. All right. Now let's get to the crazy part. When Charles Darwin published his On the Origin of Species in 1858, Virchow was already publicly speaking out against the naturalist view on evolution. In 1856, when the first Neanderthal specimen was discovered, Virchow claimed it was more likely that the specimen was an early human who suffered from an unknown disease that caused its skull and bones to be disproportional and disfigured, rather than an early descendant of man or a newly discovered species. Even after Darwin published his first groundbreaking report, Virchow continued to speak out against him and insisted that evolution was simply a hypothesis and subject to change. He was so adamant in his decision that he succeeded in getting natural history removed from school curriculum. Let that sink in for a minute. In favor of alternate hypothesis. Yep, just the one you're thinking of. Until he died, he insisted evolution was merely one of multiple theories to explain human existence and required further evidence. Yeah, of course, it's the right one. But anyway, Rudolf Virchow also did not believe that disease came from pathogens and outside forces, but rather came from fruition like cancer. And all right, outside of medicine, the layperson may find the name Rudolf Virchow familiar for an entirely different, albeit hilarious reason. His infamous sausage duel. Although the story is
Krill actually just said, "Don't tell them about the sausage story." So,
though the story is a famous one, there is speculation as to whether or not it actually happened. Although in my heart, I know it did. Virchow's anti-Darwinist rants brought him to become involved in liberal politics by the mid-1860s, and he was elected to the Berlin City Council, where he worked to improve the public health. He saw a sewage disposal, hospital design, meat inspection, school hygiene, and was generally an all-around good guy. It was also during this time in politics that he found an opponent in Otto von Bismarck, the leader of the opposing party. In 1865, after Virchow publicly spoke out against Bismarck's high military budget, Bismarck challenged him to a duel. Some accounts claim Virchow simply declined, as he didn't believe that dueling was a civilized way to end an argument or a life. But by other accounts, the duel panned out differently. Virchow was allegedly allowed to choose the weapons for the duel against Bismarck. In a tongue-in-cheek move to prove his point that medicine was more important than war, he offered Bismarck his choice of weapon: a normal pork sausage or a sausage infected with trichinella larvae. Bismarck ultimately determined the duel was too risky, and Virchow's point was proved when Bismarck pulled out of the duel. Saying that the trichinella would have, been too dangerous. Okay. Yeah. And so that supposedly proved a point. Today, despite all of his failures to recognize the two giant advancements in scientific field, Rudolf Virchow is still one of the most important figures in medical history. Without him, we wouldn't have a full understanding of leukemia. Yes, we would. Somebody else would have figured it out. Yeah. How tumors grow, blood clots, or countless other medical afflictions. But he was really great at what he did. But the most important thing, in my opinion, that he did was to contribute the great story about dueling sausages. Rudolf Virchow, a man of two sausages. So anyway,
So
That's
I've got one more story.
what you got for us.
So this one is a little bit grim. Um, so let's see here. Iranian naval mines likely used in UAV tankers attacks. So that's not good. Iran is this is getting scary from my perspective. I don't know very much about war policies, but I'm thinking this is getting pretty freaky.
Well, what is Iran doing?
So we've got well we've already talked about the carrier group being deployed. We've talked about Iran saying that that group is an opportunity for a target. Um, so this, and then they attacked some oil tankers, but the Pentagon wasn't sure what they used, and then they blamed the IRGC. So, and then this from Reuters says a U.S. National Security Advisor, John Bolton, said on Wednesday that naval mines, almost certainly from Iran, were used to attack oil tankers off the United Arab Emirates this month. And he warned Tehran against conducting nuclear operations. So it says Bolton said that the proof that the or hold on, just making sure here. Bolton said the prudent and responsible approach taken by the United States, which has beefed up its military presence in the region, had made it clear to Iran and its proxies that such actions risked a very strong U.S. response. Well, yeah. He was speaking to reporters in Abu Dhabi in an emergency press conference, ahead of emergency summits in with Arab leaders in Saudi Arabia Thursday, called to discuss the implications of the tanker attacks, the drone strikes 2 days later, and oil pumping stations in the kingdom. I didn't realize they had done drone strikes too. Wow.
I'm looking at some of the hull damage uh, to one of the tankers, and it's 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 it looks like a proximate explosion. An explosion, a nearby explosion at the water line or slightly below the water
Mhm.
line. Looking at this, I mean, you look at it and you think, yeah, mine. You don't think torpedo.
Yeah.
You don't think gunfire. Uh, it would have had to be an amazingly lucky hit that is at the level of a mine. That really looks like a mine damage. Yeah, I
Called
don't. They the way that they drop these mines in the, and Iran has these fairly sophisticated mines. You're basically dropping explosions with remote control on them.
yeah.
They can turn them on, turn them off. They can make them active. They can make them passive. They can make them inert. They can, basically turn them on, turn them off, make them explode, on command, or just, whenever somebody gets close to them, or put them on delay. There's a lot of different things that they can do with them. There are also a lot of countermeasures that you can take with mines like that, and the United States is pretty good at that sort of thing. Once we know that that's what we're facing, that we have some, you know, uh, we can put a couple of minesweepers down there and sweep the place clean,
Yeah.
fairly, uh, fairly safely with regard to American crews. Minesweeping is a lot safer. It's a lot more technical than it was in World War II.
Right.
But anyway, the upshot is that the once they can get rid of the mines. Once they do something like that, man, I would be coming back at the Iranians and saying, okay, you know, you've had your fun and games. You're going to sacrifice some ships now. Or you're going to sacrifice some cities or whatever.
Yeah.
But I would show them some force. I'd show them some force back.
Cult of Krill says John Bolton helped fly us into Iraq. Screw him.
I'm not sure that that's completely fair. I mean, Bolton is a pro-war guy, no doubt about it. He certainly can be a little bit of a hothead, but there was a lot of sentiment in the United States that was pro going into war with
Yeah.
Iraq. It turned out to be a ruinously expensive war for the United States, but I don't
Yeah.
think you can put it all at John Bolton's feet, yeah, or even a large part of it. Yeah, he certainly was for it, no doubt about that.
So this continues on to say Tehran has denied involvement in either attack, and Iranian foreign minister's spokesman have massively dismissed Bolton's remarks as a ludicrous claim. Fox, so that's so Tehran's like, no, 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 it's not us, but like
Yeah, I mean that's just a lie. It's
everyone and
a
their dog
facile.
knows it's them.
It's a facile lie. It makes me think we should just
Um,
take out one of their ports and say that's not us.
Green Badger Outdoors says, correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't modern torpedoes supposed to explode under the keel of, or designed to explode under the keel of a ship?
Modern torpedoes can explode just about anywhere you want them to. The keel is the very lowest part of the ship. It's also one of the most sturdy parts of the ship.
Right.
Most torpedoes you don't want to direct them at the keel simply because the keel is pretty hardened. What you would want is you'd want something below the water line and something that was adjacent a large space like engineering spaces typically have a large space that what you want to do is fill it with water,
Yeah.
fill a large space with water, and the largest spaces typically are either empty tanks, which are unusual to find, or stuff like engineering spaces that are below
Basically,
that.
the two things that are devastating for a ship are fire and hull breach.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Um, Also, nuclear explosions.
Or nuclear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
nuclear explosions are bad. It can spoil your day.
Iranians be lying, says irate prostate. Yup.
Yeah, Iranians lying. They lie like rugs, and this is known. So that's part of it. You know, the thing is I'm trying to understand what the Iranians are trying to gain from this.
I don't know either.
I uh, they seem to want to um, show some aggression against Israel. That seems to be their first and foremost um, objective. But the second thing is that they want to flip off the United States.
Yeah.
Which I don't care if somebody wants to show us the bird. That's fine. I won't even kill anybody over that. But if somebody does something that endangers our sailors, by God, that's you know that needs to be discouraged.
Well, and they're starting to go after other countries too. They're starting to go after like Saudi Arabia.
Yeah,
Because it says in this article that Riyadh has accused Tehran of ordering the drone strikes, which were claimed by what's it called? Which were claimed by the Iran Lime. There's some group which are battling the Saudis in some coalition in a conflict seen as a proxy war between Saudi Arabia and Iran.
so these
So
are Iranian drone strikes.
yeah, Riyadh is claiming that Iran has uh, launched drone strikes on
Okay.
some of their properties.
I'm
Or
looking at Dubai, UAE. Saudi Arabia accused Tehran of being behind a drone strike that shut down a key oil pipeline in
yeah,
the kingdom. A newspaper close to the palace called for Washington to launch surgical strikes on Iran, raising the specter of escalating tensions as the U.S. boosts its military presence in the Persian Gulf. Yeah, those kind of surgical strikes that they're talking about, those won't come from an aircraft carrier unless
no,
they're cruise missiles. They might come from like a guided missile destroyer, but they most likely will come from Air Force
yeah,
assets that, like a B-2 will lift off from Missouri, believe it or not, refuel, and then uh, drop some hurt on them, and then uh, fly back home to Missouri, which is that's a day at work for those guys.
yeah,
That's people think the Air Force is an easy life. It's not.
no,
Concerned about possible conflict after the U.S. dispatched warships and bombers to the region to counter an alleged but unspecified threat from Iran. That's what I'm trying to find out is what is that threat? There have also been allegations that 4 oil tankers were sabotaged Sunday off the coast of the UAE, and Iran aligned rebels in Yemen claimed responsibility for Tuesday's attack on the Saudi pipeline. Fears have grown out of President Donald Trump's decision last year to withdraw the U.S. from the 2015 nuclear accord between Iran and world powers, which was a fucked up agreement, and impose world wide reaching sanctions, the latest levied as recently as last week, that have crippled Iran's economy. But Trump took a soft tone Thursday, a day after tweeting that he expected Iran to look for talks, asked if the U.S. might be on a path to war with the Iranians. The president answered, I hope not. That's what I love about our president. Jesus Christ. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say. Let's see. Saudis are saying nobody's going to start a war with them, meaning Iran. But I think they should be defanged. And, things like their naval capabilities, things like their missile capabilities should be downgraded and at least make their capacity to inflict such dangerous activity more painful, more costly, says
mm,
the official in the Saudi government. Well, yeah. So, United States, you go build the cat, right? You go put the bell on the cat.
yeah,
You do it. We'll watch.
yeah,
Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who is also defense minister and controls major levers of power in the Sunni kingdom and owns white slaves, has not commented publicly on this week's incidents. In a Saudi TV interview in 2017, he said the kingdom knows it is a main target of Shiite Iran and that there is no room for dialogue with Tehran. No, okay, no room for dialogue. Well, that kind of says it, doesn't it?
wow.
So the Saudi crown prince basically says, destroy Iran. They're evil.
Costin says, we'll trade you Trudeau for Trump.
No deal. No deal, man.
Yeah, you know what? I don't like everything that Trump does, but he's not Hitler. He's not evil. He's
No.
not no. He's
He's actually doing a fairly good job as
yeah.
president. Surprisingly enough, he's not come off. The wheels haven't come off. He's done okay. And
Do I think he needs to stop tweeting so much? Yeah.
yeah,
Does should he be discussing, policy on Twitter?
yeah,
No.
I think you're
But
right.
is he a criminal? I no. I would
I would
not
agree
say
with you.
so.
Agree.
I think that this whole ridiculous, Trump is just this horrible evil man and
Okay,
everything is
yeah,
his fault is just
Orange Man bad.
I don't understand. And the amount of Canadians that hate him so viciously drives me insane. Because it's like, okay, dude, it's not even your country. Why do you care?
I know. I know. I don't
Like
know what to tell you.
these marches for against Trump for in the UK
Yeah.
and in like there have been marches here
Yeah.
against him, and it's like, what do you even think that you're achieving? Like, you're not even citizens of the country that he's elected in.
Right.
What are you doing? Like, use your energy to change and make change in your country.
Get rid of Trudeau.
Yeah,
When you get rid of when you make that happen, then we'll listen to you.
exactly.
You know, you don't have much credibility right now. You elected Trudeau. Shut up.
And
With all
the
due respect,
amount,
love you, but shut up.
yeah, like the amount of energy put into hating Trump
I know. I know.
could be used to fix the country.
That's the truth. That is God's truth.
Just
And
a
look
few more months is all you need. Yeah,
and look at
exactly.
that. Just
It's
like that, you spend another 2 hours of your life
you
with
have.
Skep Talk and his minder.
I hope you enjoyed it.
We did. At
We
least I
sure
did.
did. We absolutely did.
I hope you did.
Um
I hope I didn't talk too much. I'm afraid I did today.
No, you did not. And also, guys, please, if you're around tonight at 11:30 Eastern, 10:30 Central, please come
Come
by
see
the
us again.
Yes, come see us again on the Minions of the Zoo channel, which is linked in the description of this stream.
10:30 Central,
Yep,
11:30
10:30
Eastern.
Central, 11:30 Eastern. I will be there. Also, reminder, tomorrow is the early and short version of the coffee stream, starting at 11:30 a.m. Eastern, 10:30 a.m.
And
Central.
Friday,
And Friday is Call-in Day, guys.
I can't wait.
I know it's gonna be fun. And
It's
then
gonna be some fun.
Saturday we're gonna be talking about the last two-parter before the finale, which
Yes.
is Penumbra and Till Death Do Us Part.
She's talking about the Star Trek stream.
Yes, Star Trek stream.
Which is 1
So,
o'clock Central, 2 o'clock Eastern.
yes, it
On
is.
Line Press channel on Saturday.
So, everybody, thank you for watching. I hope you guys had a good time, and I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Make it a good and safe one, and we'll see you later.
Like, share, and subscribe.